Have you ever noticed that you are the first person to arrive when a friend is in crisis, yet the last person to eat when you are hungry? Perhaps you've spent the last hour meticulously organizing someone else's chaos, providing the perfect words of comfort, or ensuring every deadline for your work is met with surgical precision, only to realize you haven't taken a deep breath in 3 days. You stand in the kitchen at midnight, staring at a glass of water you're too exhausted to pick up. Or you lie in bed with a headache that has been screaming since noon, yet you feel a strange, cold pride in having ignored it. You treat your own body like a piece of equipment that is expected to run forever without fuel, a silent servant that you only notice when it finally breaks down. This is not a lack of discipline. It is not that you are too busy or forgetful. It is a profound psychological invisibility. You have become a ghost in your own life, an architect who builds magnificent homes for everyone else while living in a shed with a leaking roof. You feel that to stop, to rest, or to nourish yourself is not just a luxury, but a betrayal of your purpose. You are not failing to take care of yourself. You are succeeding at a very old, very hidden survival strategy that tells you that your needs are the only thing standing in the way of your safety. Welcome to T-Psychology. Please find a place to sit where the world cannot reach you for a moment. Put down the heavy expectations and the endless list of things you should have done for yourself today. In this space, we do not view your self-neglect as a flaw to be fixed or a habit to be shamed. We are here to translate the silence of your exhaustion. We view you as the protagonist of a long, complex story. Someone who has learned to survive by becoming small. Someone who has traded their well-being for the security of being useful. Here, we do not offer advice. We offer a mirror. We are here to understand why your soul decided that taking care of you was a danger to be avoided. This is your sanctuary, a quiet room where the only requirement is that you exist. The data held within your nervous system reveals that this neglect is not a sign of a weak will, but a brilliant adaptation of your brain. When we look at the neurological landscape of someone who ignores their own needs, we see a hyperactive amygdala, the brain's ancient alarm system. For you, the act of self-care triggers a sense of existential threat. In your early environment, perhaps your needs were seen as an inconvenience, or perhaps your value was only recognized when you were serving others. Your brain recorded this information and built a neurobiological pathway. To be needy is to be rejected. To be self-sufficient is to be safe. Every time you ignore your hunger or push through your fatigue, your striatum, the reward center, releases a small hit of dopamine, reinforcing the idea that your endurance is your greatest asset. You are not broken. Your brain is simply performing a protective ritual it learned long ago. It perceives your own body as a distraction from the task of staying alive in a world that feels precarious. Your body records the cost of this protection in the language of cortisol and inflammation. Even when you are sitting still, your internal state is one of high alert. You have developed a biological firewall against your own sensations. This is why you don't feel the hunger until it is a sharp pain, or why you don't feel the exhaustion until you collapse. Your brain has learned to mute the signals from your insular cortex, the part of the brain responsible for interoception, or the sensing of the internal state of the body. You have effectively disconnected the alarm so that you can keep working in the burning building. This is not a failure of character. It is a profound act of endurance. Your brain is trying to save you from the perceived shame of having needs by making sure you don't feel those needs at all. behind these layers of silent endurance lies the architecture of the childhood plan. Imagine a child who looked at the adults around them and saw people who were overwhelmed, fragile, or perhaps even dangerous when burdened. That child made a sophisticated, unconscious calculation. If I have no needs, I cannot be a burden. If I am the one who helps, I will be indispensable. This was the shelter you built. You became the child who didn't cry, the child who did their homework without being asked, the child who noticed when mom was sad and tried to fix it. You became an adult who is still living inside that tiny, cramped shelter. You are still trying to be the easy one because you are terrified that if you show your hunger, your fatigue, or your messiness, the people you love will look at you with the same overwhelmed eyes you saw years ago. You are not neglecting yourself because you don't love yourself. You are neglecting yourself because you are still trying to keep the peace in a house you haven't lived in for decades. The cost of this childhood shelter is a life lived in a state of perpetual metabolic tax. You are spending more energy than you are taking in, not just physically, but emotionally. You are a tree that has spent all its energy growing fruit for others, leaving no sap for its own roots. Eventually, the soil becomes dry. The fog of dissociation begins to settle in. You start to feel like you are watching your life through a thick pane of glass. You see yourself eating, sleeping, and working, but you don't feel the nourishment. You don't feel the rest. This is the silence of a soul that has been told to wait at the back of the line for so long that it has forgotten it was even in the queue. The tides of your life have been pulling you away from the shore of your own identity for a long time. It is a slow erosion. Each time you say it's fine when you are actually hurting, a little bit more of your true self washes away. You begin to believe that the you who has needs is a monster that must be kept in the dark. You fear that if you ever let that monster out, if you ever said, "I need help," or "I am not okay," the entire world would recoil in horror. But the truth is, that monster is just a hungry, tired human being who has been locked in a basement. The fear you feel when you think about self-care is not a warning of danger. It is the echo of an old loneliness. Your body is not a machine, though you have treated it like one. It is a garden that has been neglected, and like any garden, it does not need a fix. It needs a presence. It needs you to walk through it without a shovel or a plan. It needs you to notice the weeds without feeling the urge to pull them all at once. The first step of returning to yourself is not fixing the neglect. It is simply acknowledging that the neglect is happening. It is standing in that kitchen at midnight and saying, "I am exhausted," and that is allowed. It is the radical honesty of admitting that you are not a superhero, and that the cost of trying to be one is becoming a ghost. The silence tells us that you are terrified of being selfish. In your vocabulary, selfishness is the ultimate sin. But let us look at the data of your life. Have you ever truly seen a person you love suffer because you took a nap? Have you ever seen the world end because you ate a meal while it was still hot? The selfishness you fear is actually just self-existence. You have been taught that to exist for yourself is to steal from others. But the reality is that the most generous thing you can do for the world is to be a person who is whole. A person who is nourished can offer genuine warmth. A person who is depleted can only offer a brittle, desperate kind of service that eventually turns into resentment. Your self-neglect is not a gift to others. It is a slow-motion withdrawal from the world. Behind these layers of service is a hidden hope that if you take care of everyone else well enough, someone will eventually notice and take care of you. You are waiting for a permission slip that will never arrive. You are waiting for someone to see your silent suffering and say, "Stop, let me take over." But because you have become so good at hiding your needs, no one even knows you are suffering. They see the strong pillar, not the cracks in the stone. The invitation of healing is to realize that you are the only one who can sign that permission slip. You are the only one who can walk into the basement and bring that hungry, tired version of yourself back into the light. The language of your healing must be one of self-compassion, which is not a soft or weak thing. Self-compassion is a fierce, protective energy. It is the part of you that says, no more. It is the part of you that stands between your exhaustion and the world's demands, and says, this person is under my protection. Think of it as a biological sanctuary. It is the act of creating a space where your needs are not up for negotiation. It is the radical honesty of saying, I have limits, and my limits are the most beautiful thing about me, because they make me human. What would happen if you began to view your hunger, your tiredness, and your pain not as inconveniences, but as sacred signals? Imagine your body is a small child trying to tell you something important. Would you tell that child to shut up because you have a spreadsheet to finish? Would you tell that child they are selfish for wanting a glass of water? Of course not. You would kneel down, you would listen, and you would provide. The psychology of self-neglect is essentially a disconnection from that inner child. Healing is the process of kneeling down and finally listening to the child you once were, who is still living inside you, still waiting for someone to care. Your body records the moments you choose yourself as safety signals. Each time you sit down to eat without your phone, or each time you go to bed when you are tired, instead of finishing one more task, you are rewriting your neural pathways. You are telling your amygdala, it is safe to be me. It is safe to have needs. This is not a fast process. It is the slow work of reforesting a landscape that has been cleared for industry. You must be patient with the saplings. You must be patient with the parts of you that still feel guilty for resting. The guilt is just the old childhood plan trying to keep you safe in a world that no longer exists. The data of human connection shows that we are most loved not for what we do, but for the space we occupy. People do not love a machine, they love a person. When you neglect yourself, you are taking away the very person they love and replacing them with a high-functioning shadow. By taking care of yourself, you are actually allowing the people in your life to truly see you. You are giving them the opportunity to love the real, finite, beautiful human being you are, rather than the tireless role you play. This is the transition from being indispensable to being connected. Behind these layers of fear, there is a deep well of mudita, the joy in the well-being of others. But it must include yourself. If you can feel happy when a friend finds peace, why can you not feel that same joy when you find it? You are a part of the others in this world. You are a member of the human family. To exclude yourself from your own compassion is a mathematical error. It is a denial of your own place in the circle of life. Healing is the process of including yourself in your own heart. It is the realization that you are not the exception to the rule of grace. The silence tells us that you are afraid that if you stop, you will never be able to start again. You fear that your exhaustion is a bottomless pit, and that if you give into it, you will fall forever. But the data of the human spirit shows the opposite. When we truly rest, when we truly nourish ourselves, we don't fall. We settle. We find the solid ground of our own being. And from that ground, a new kind of energy grows. Not the frantic, anxious energy of the fixer, but the steady, calm energy of a person who knows who they are. Your body remembers the warmth of being cared for, even if that memory is very old. It is waiting for you to return. It is not asking for a vacation or a spa day. It is asking for a constant presence. It is asking for you to stay with it when things are hard. instead of abandoning it for work or for others. It is asking for a relationship built on trust rather than exploitation. This is the invitation of T-psychology, to stop being the landlord of your life and start being the inhabitant. As we sit in this quiet space, realize that you are not a monster for being tired. You are not a failure for needing more than you can give. You are a person who has carried a very heavy weight for a very long time, and you are allowed to put it down. You are allowed to be useless for a while. The world will not fall apart. The people who truly love you will still be there. The psychology of people who don't take care of themselves is a story of profound loyalty to a painful past. But that story can have a new chapter. It can be a story of radical reclamation. It can be a story where the protagonist realizes that their own life is the most important project they will ever work on. It is a story where the safe space is not something you find, but something you become for yourself. You are not the service you provide. You are the silence between the heartbeats. You are the warmth in your own chest. You are the breath that is moving through you right now. Each breath is a data point of your existence. Each breath says, I am here. Each breath is a small, quiet miracle that requires nothing from you but your presence. If you know someone, perhaps a friend who always says, I'm fine, while their eyes are heavy with exhaustion, or a family member who has made self-sacrifice their only identity, please share this mirror with them. We often cannot see our own neglect until someone else describes the shape of it for us. By sharing this, you are not asking them to fix themselves. You are offering them the same sanctuary you have found here. You are telling them, I see you, and you don't have to disappear anymore. I invite you to leave a comment below, not to tell us what you will do, but to tell us what you will be. Use one word to describe the version of yourself that is allowed to have needs, or simply leave a symbol of your intent to stay present with yourself today. Let this comment section be a ritual of intent, a place where we all acknowledge that we are human and that we are finally coming home to ourselves. The silence of the room is now yours to keep. As you move back into your day, remember that the person staring back at you in the mirror is not a machine to be used, but a soul to be tended. You are allowed to be hungry. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to be the most important person in your own life. The world has had enough of your sacrifice. Now it is time for the world to have the gift of your wholeness. You are not a burden. You are simply a person worthy of the same tenderness you've given so freely to the world. The old survival maps are no longer needed. You are finally, safely, allowed to care for yourself. As you return to the world, stay connected with us. Subscribing to T-Psychology is just a gentle way to remind yourself that you don't have to walk this path alone. We are here to walk beside you as you learn to inhabit your own skin again. If there is someone in your life who feels invisible, please share this mirror with them. Stay gentle with your heart. We will be here for you in the next quiet space. Thank you for being part of T-Psychology.